What's up, everybody? I'm Jessekazam. Welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to fight squads as a solo player. This can be one of the most difficult tasks to do in Escape from Tarkov, and if you are a solo player, with the increase in squads recently in the game, this is probably something you deal with pretty often. So we're going to be breaking down some of my tips for that. I stream Escape from Tarkov on Twitch. All my links will be down below. I'd love to have you stop by and say hey. And if you like the video, think about dropping it a like or subscribing for more content like this. YouTube will probably show you my videos even if you don't subscribe, but subscribing helps me out as a creator a lot. So thank you so much to those that do that. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. So as a quick preface, obviously there's no specific recipe that's always going to net you a victory in a 1v2, 3 or 4, or even 5 in Escape from Tarkov. But I really believe in these tips. I really believe in these strategies and ways to play the game. And I think that they will, if you can kind of incorporate them into your mindset going into fights, you will definitely come out victorious a whole lot more. If you stop by my stream, I do normally play duos. I think for me, duos is kind of the sweet spot. But I have played plenty of solos. I'm coming up on 2,000 hours of playtime. I've spent a lot of that playing solo, and I even reached out to a few members of my community that have gotten Kappa multiple times, completely solo, and kind of broke some of these tips down. So just that little disclaimer before we hop right in. But starting off with, before you go into a raid as a solo player, there's some things that you should consider, in my opinion. One should be, you should absolutely invest in ammo. And potentially more than anything else, because if you're in a position where you can take a few shots and maybe cut the squad in half or confuse them, you really want those shots to hit. If you come up on a place, you're trying to run like a meme gun, or you're trying to go cheap on the ammo, and you come up against a squad and you're hitting really good shots, but they're bouncing off helmets or they're just getting absorbed by armor, that's going to feel rough because you know you played well. And it's going to make the whole engagement much, much harder for you. Gear in general, run stuff that you're kind of comfortable with losing. That doesn't mean don't run high tier gear. It depends on where you are. Run stuff that you're proficient with. Don't run a kit where you're just going, you know that you're going to be playing differently. You know that you're going to be playing weird. Sometimes it's not even gear fear. Sometimes it's just when you run higher tier stuff, you almost feel like you're invincible, even though you know you're not. And that might subtly affect how you play. Or if you're much more confident as a solo player running high tier stuff because you know that that gives you a few extra shots, a few extra seconds to react, don't run budget too often. And it comes down to, you have to lean into what your play style is. So run gear that you're comfortable losing. As a solo player, you know you're going to be dying quite a bit if you're running up against squads, and give yourself the opportunity to just kind of move on to the next one. I would always suggest running a suppressor personally, not necessarily because once you get right up in the middle of a fight, they're not going to know where you are. But if you have the opportunity to engage from a distance, and you don't have to be running a big old DMR, even if you have like an M4, an 8R, an AK that's suppressed, if you have the ability to engage at a distance and you can take 1 or 2 shots and once again potentially cut that squad in half and then immediately rotate away to engage them later, you've confused them. They might not know exactly where you are, and you were able to hit those shots. So when you're suppressed at a distance with good ammo, you can really start the fight off in your favor a lot of times. And the next tip of your equipment would be use your container to your advantage. And in my opinion, especially if you're a solo player, I would say fill your container. A lot of people that like to do money runs go in with nearly empty containers and they like to fill it up. That's fine. In my opinion, meds are relatively cheap, and you can fill your container with meds, with extra ammo, with extra mags, with stims. Fill it to the brim, go into a fight, and then you're minimizing your loss because maybe you had a bunch of extra ammo or a few extra mags in the container, or you're giving yourself more utility by, if you get into a place where a grenade almost killed you and every single limb is like down to low health, and you can pop the green stim, the ETG, and then your health rips up so fast and you can re-engage as that solo player. But then if you find a LEDX or something, of course, you just ditch something out of your container, throw it up into your backpack or pockets, and put the LEDX in. So to me, filling my container almost has no downside, because I'm either going to be profiting by taking something out of that container and put something more valuable in, or I'm going to gain a ton of utility if I don't find anything valuable by having all that stuff in there. Grenades are another huge thing to take into consideration as a solo player. Grenades can be expensive, yes, And it does feel bad to just get like one tapped when you had 4 grenades on you. But if you get into a situation where you're about to fight a squad, grenades can be used in a ton of different ways. They can create space for yourself or just intimidate the enemy. They can give you an opportunity to leave if you're just throwing some down a hall. You can just distance yourself, throw them directly at your feet while you run away. Just scares them into like kind of backing off. They are a great way to start a fight if you know that there's a bunch of people looting something and you can get a good roll, or potentially just scare them. Once again, if you're throwing it from a distance, they hear the grenade land, they don't know where it came from. You can toss it, go for a reposition, go for a second angle, or just confusing the team. We're going to talk about this continually more later, but anytime you can give the squad an opportunity to, in their Discord, be like, was that you? Is that your nade? All of those questions we're going to talk about more. That's perfect for a solo player because they're reacting. They have to take time to figure things out and you don't. The last thing is map knowledge. Now, I've said this before in a bunch of different circumstances, but map knowledge is, in my opinion, the absolutely most important thing in Escape from Tarkov, period. If you don't know where you are, if you don't know where to rotate, if you don't know what to do, that's going to be really rough. You're going to run predictable paths. And knowing the intricacies of a map are really important. If you're a solo player that's fighting squads, you probably have a decent amount of time in the game and you know the maps, of course, but the intricacies of the map, how to back off, how to flank around, how to leave, knowing that you can jump out all the windows of the custom storms now. So if you get caught in a room, you don't just have to lose that fight. You can break the glass, jump out, and re-engage. Knowing how to back off, how to flank, where these unpredictable paths are going to net you a victory, either winning the fight or giving you the ability to back off a fight so much, because they have obviously way more sets of eyes than you do. So being able to get to some of these unpredictable places is huge. Now, once you're in the raid, picking your fights intentionally is really important. Now, and that's intentionally, whether you're the kind of person that's like, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to take every fight available to me. I'm here for PvP. I'm going to take every fight. Or if you're the person that's trying to avoid PvP, or you're trying to do a quest, or you're just trying to pick fights more intentionally and not pick all the bad fights, just understanding A, as you're going into a raid, what your goal is, and then B, when you're in a raid, being able to use the clues around you, where people are spawning, what fights are you hearing in the distance, what can you maybe third party, and being able to maybe hold off to see, okay, I see a guy, but does he have a duo? Do they have a trio? How big is the squad? Being able to make really intentional decisions before you engage in a fight. And speaking of engaging in a fight, I think as a solo player, if you do want to take a fight, especially against the squad, initiating that fight is incredibly important. Be the person that decides when and where the fight happens. And like we talked about earlier, that gives you the opportunity to potentially cut the squad down by 1 or 2 people very, very quickly by you being the one that decides when this fight starts. Pick your position very carefully. As a solo player, before the fight actually starts is really the only time that you have to take your time. A lot of times they aren't going to be listening for footsteps as much as you are as an audio cue, because if there's 4 people and they're all running, all of their footsteps are all kind of jumbled together. They're probably talking in Discord as well. So audio is your kind of domain and it's not theirs. So a lot of times what happens is, as a solo player, if you hear 1, 2, 3 people stampeding around, the kind of natural thing to do is just turtle up, just like get into whatever room you're in and you're just there. But you actually kind of, a lot of times, now this might get you killed sometimes, but for the most part, you actually have a little bit of time to maybe make a move, because a lot of times they're all going to be thinking that that footstep is the other player or whatever. Be careful about what noise you make if you open a door or unlock a room or walk on metal when they're on wood. Of course, all those things are going to be able to trigger the squad immediately, but you actually have a little bit of time and use that time to plan accordingly, pick your position, and make sure that when you engage, you're in a good spot. First contact is, of course, super important as a solo player. Really, really wanting to be able to down somebody immediately. Getting a kill ASAP is huge. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but their comms are going to be crazy. Immediately, if you can just kill somebody, you've got "I'm dead, I don't know where that was from," or they're going to be trying to call out a position. People are going to be trying to guess what gun did he have, what caliber, where is he? Is he second, third, fourth floor? All of these types of things are good to confuse their Discord, because once again, that gives you even more audio time to either run away, reposition, get another fight out, get another peek out. Any way that you can confuse them is going to be very, very good for you. A huge thing to consider is that once you're in a raid and once you're about to start a fight or in a fight, acting quickly and decisively is huge. I've made lessons for Beyond the Graves about hesitation and stuff like that. As a solo player, you don't have a lot of room for mistakes. Every small mistake you make is amplified by the fact that they have so many people. They have the opportunities to make mistakes. They can, forget to check an angle because the other guy might. You have to be very, very on point. So acting very quickly and decisively, no hesitation, no going back, even if that quick decision is to back off. If you don't know how to continue to engage, then back off and re-engage later. But give yourself the freedom to just make decisions very, very quickly. This is going to be much, much better for you. Even if those decisions ultimately end up in you dying, you can learn from them. You can figure stuff out. But hesitating, trying to figure out what to do, spending too much time figuring out what the best play is will often get you killed. Once you are in combat, once you are locked in combat with a squad, movement is incredibly important. Never being where they think you're going to be. If you peek out, kill somebody, and then you try and re-peek that, almost assuredly the other 2 or 3 people are just going to be holding that angle. You might be able to get one of them, but not all 3 of them. Very, very quick peeks and quick trades. Once again, not giving them the ability to know that you're going to re-peek something, you're going to do something that you've already done. Trying to peek, figure out some information, maybe eliminate somebody, and then move. Don't be too afraid of audio. Once again, that's something that I've been working on a ton. Of course, as you move around, they are going to be hearing your movement. They are going to be calling out metal. Oh, he might be going to second. He might be going to third. But even if you're moving and they're kind of tracking where you're moving, that's still better than peeking an angle, shooting at somebody, and then just re-peeking it again. That's the most predictable thing. Even if they hear you moving and they're like, oh, is he going up to third? And they're kind of calling your play. They still have to react to it. They still have to get there. They still have to communicate that to their squad. So that's still better than just doing the most predictable thing. So don't be too afraid of audio, but move a lot. Break contact, reposition, re-engage. Once you engage, whether you kill somebody or not, break contact again, reposition, re-engage. This really confuses people. It can oftentimes give off the impression that there's more than just one of you. Convincing a squad that when you're solo that there's actually 2 or 3 of you can be incredibly helpful. You can start throwing grenades in the opposite direction that you're flanking. You can blind fire around corners and then immediately maybe drop through a hole in shoreline and start shooting again. Anything you can do, once again, to confuse their comms, to make sure that they don't know what you're doing. Keeping a squad in a reactionary state is, I guess, a good way to sum up what I'm saying. Make it so that every few seconds, somebody in the squad has to make a call out to the rest of the squad, and then the rest of the squad has to take the time to process what that call out was, figure out if they're close enough to make something happen, and then maybe move and react. And then by the time that information has made it through the squad, you're either killing somebody, throwing a grenade, blind firing, and now they have to do that whole thing again. So keeping them in a reactionary state is huge. Any sort of verticality on a map should absolutely be used to your advantage. If you're on interchange and you're on the top floor, maybe drop down to the bottom, or vice versa. If you're on shoreline and you have any opportunity to drop above, below, to the roof, out a window, to the admin, any sort of verticality is going to help. It's going to confuse the audio once again, because the audio in Tarkov, especially around verticality, can oftentimes be super scuffed. So you can use the information you have and then use the verticality that you have to confuse them even more. Expect flanks and pinches. So especially if you're running up against a squad of people that are pretty proficient at the game, they are going to try to split and then come onto your position. Now, this goes back to what we were saying about moving and re-engaging, because a competent squad is going to try and split. Even if it's only 2 or 3 people, one person might hold, one person might split, and then try and get you from another angle. And that's the worst position for you to be in, because now instead of you knowing where they are and them confusing you, you're the one kind of in the confused state of like, okay, enough time has passed. I'm sure one of these guys is going to flank. I don't know where he's going to flank. I don't know what to do. When somebody starts to pinch you, you kind of really have to be aggressive. Pick one of the angles. Like if you know somebody's wrapping behind and you know the one guy is holding front, you have to really act quickly and decisively. Pick an angle to be aggressive on, push it, try and eliminate that enemy, and then you can either once again leave or turn around and engage from the one direction that you know. But expect that, especially if you're holding an angle, they're going to try to pinch you, come at you from multiple sides, throw grenades, and it's very effective against solo players. So just don't allow yourself to be in that position. Holding narrow angles is also helpful. Narrow angles in the sense of, yes, there might be less field of view for you to see, which is hard. Like if you're holding a really tight angle, then it's going to be harder for you to see what's going on with the squad, but you have to flip that, and the higher like kind of field of view that you have when you're holding an angle, the more places you have the opportunity to get shot from. So if you have baited somebody and you know they're going to be walking through a hall and you want to catch them, hold a really narrow angle on it and just make sure that you're hitting your shots. As the fight progresses against the squad, once you pick off a few people, the fight will slow down quite a bit. If there's a 4-man and you've picked off 3 of them, that one guy will most likely not just be Chad bunny hopping around, sprinting, pushing you, trying to flank. He's most likely going to be holding those bodies. So once you know that you've kind of like really cut that squad down to just 1, maybe 2 people left, if it was a really big squad, this is the time for you to slow down a little bit. Maybe pull really, really big flanks. Maybe get to a position that is just really far away. You've got a long angle. Because the thing is to never underestimate how long somebody will hold a body. They're so much more invested now in this one person being able to secure the insurance loot for everybody, trying to kill you. That's one of a huge draw to playing as a squad, is that you're going to be getting so much more of that gear back. So once it's down to that one person, never underestimate how long he's going to hold that body and wait, because he knows that you want all that loot. So this is a great opportunity. Instead of just like holding angles and making these really short plays and moving around, you can make a huge flank to another place where you can hold the bodies. You can maybe just wrap completely around the area. Yes, this will sometimes end in you coming back to the scene of the crime and the bodies are looted and the dude has already dipped the insurance. But at the end of the day, Tarkov is about survival more than it is about loot, because even if the insurance is dumped, you might be able to find it. You might be able to kill the last guy. You might be able to pick the scraps off, and you're still most likely profiting. Whereas death, you're 100% losing money. So it's at the end of the day, it's about survival. So once that fight gets down to 1 or 2 people, you have the opportunity to slow it down, wait for them to kind of come out of their shell, wait for them to think it's safe. Maybe they think a scav got you, or you ran away because you didn't know how many were there, and then take the opportunity to eliminate that final 1 or 2 people. But for the most part, that is it. I know it's a lot. I know it's a whole lot of information. There is an insane amount of intricacies to fighting squads as a solo player. And like we said before, this doesn't encompass everything, but hopefully this helped broke things down a little bit, gave you some things to think about before you go into a raid, as you're in a raid, before you're in a fight, and once you're in combat, how to move and how to kind of act and how to confuse your enemy. So hopefully this helped, and hopefully this encourages you and helps you take on and win a few more fights as a solo player. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to watch this video. If you'd like to add anything to this conversation, any more tips or strategies, please drop a comment down below. If you like the video, think about liking it or subscribing for more content like this. I'm always trying to create videos to help shorten the learning curve of Tarkov and get you in your raids having fun as soon as possible. Like we said earlier, I stream Escape From Tarkov on Twitch. All my links will be down below. And we also have a huge Discord server that's awesome if you're looking for people to play with, whether you're a Tarkov veteran, a newer player, you're looking for people to run raids with, answer questions, get quests done, all that kind of stuff. That link is down below as well. Thank you so much again for stopping by, and I will definitely see y'all on the next one.